when I put down Aiden, now I'm been making up stories about him and Mickey Mouse doing various activities. Really into Mickey right now. So I basically just walk through what he and I did in the evening, but I just, instead of him, I put in Mickey, so Mickey does all the same things and hit all the words and all the things that he likes. But I keep losing my train of thought because he wants me to lay on the floor and tell him the story while he falls asleep, but I'm falling asleep faster than him. So I'm like struggling. I'm like, and then Mickey, yeah. And I like can't keep a train of thought because I'm falling asleep. You know, some periods of time I've just got time. Other times I don't got time. And right now I don't really have the time. I'm running on a thin schedule. I'm burning the candle at both ends. This is similar to the schedule that I had last year, really. I'm getting up really early, like at 4, and then in order to make that sustainable, I have to go to bed really early. So when I'm sitting down here to edit or make a video and it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, you know, I got no option other than to sit here and talk at a camera. Sam's working more. I've been working a lot in terms of all kinds of things. So yeah, we've got so many like trips and stuff. I've got days that I'm taking off from work, so I'm trying to like get caught up on things during the day, and my mind is just elsewhere. It's just not locked into the dailies right now. 6 years ago was day 200. I put 200 like the number 200 on a cake. That was the opening shot. A long way from 200. Lots changed since then, that's for sure. Seems like in a completely different lifetime. I also just marvel at my, I want to use the word childish because it wasn't quite that, but you know, it's just interesting to look back at the way I talked to the camera and the way I composed myself and the energy that I put into the videos. Very cartoon. Even when I was serious, there's like a level of cartooniness to it that I can't quite describe. Not bad. I don't like hate it, but it's just so different than my approach now. It used to be so much more about like putting on a character, you know, like very, very much shaping the way that my craft was portrayed, because I was just trying to do something differently with it then, you know. Now I'm just doing something. Now it's more of like a video diary, a chronologicing of my life and my my passion. And also at that time I was just doing it full time, you know, so all I had was the dailies pretty much. But now I have a full time job and additional projects that I work on outside of this, so the necessity of what this is for me has changed pretty significantly. But I feel in the last 6 months it's landed in a pretty good place. I don't feel the same amount of pressure to always be delivering a good video. I personally have such a struggle with wasted potential. I think really embracing being a father has helped that a lot. I think my kid has put a lot of things in perspective. And I just have different emotional outputs now. So while the dailies are, I mean, it's still very important to me. These videos still mean a lot to me. They just don't require the representation so much of me. I don't feel so much like they have to represent me. Like I said, now it's more of a thing that I can look back on and see how things have changed, you know, reminisce on time, especially with a family. You know, it's become a really great time clock. I already love to go back and watch videos with just seeing how things have changed. but also it always keeps me working. I think that's the biggest reason why I continue to go, is because even if I have 10 to 15 of these kind of videos, because I always have to make one video, it's that difference between, hey, I'm gonna go do this cool thing, and if I didn't have the obligation of uploading at the end of the day, I probably wouldn't have that same like, oh, let me make a video of this. Or, hey, I'm gonna do this thing, let me make a video of that, let me plan it like this weekend. You know, I think if I had quit, let's say if I'd quit the dailies back in like January, I don't know if I would necessarily, I would probably be going into this weekend thinking like, hey, it's gonna be a vacation, I don't need to worry about work at all, I'm not gonna film anything. And you could argue that might be a healthier thing for me. But I think I value the fact that the dailies still push me to always be trying to make that little bit extra content, that little bit extra output and learning. And it also, in that same breath, gives me an opportunity to play around. Like I'm always, a lot of times if I have no video, but I'm working on something, there have been a lot of examples of it, especially in the last 8 months, where I don't have any content, but there's like a new effect that I want to try, or like I want to add animation in or something. This gives me a good platform to put something together that's remotely finished or polished. You know, it's not just a complete scrap, because I have an audience, you know, I have people that's watching, so there's some standard that I'm being held to, but at the same time, because of the vastness and how each one of these videos in a way is so meaningless, that it gives me the freedom to not care about, am I saying something important? Am I doing something important? Does this look cool? It's like, well, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to make a video tomorrow. So if I really hate how today's video turns out, I can just make another one tomorrow and make it better. So the psychology is very comforting in those circumstances. And also there, for so long, I feel like there was an audience, and this is so true, I think, with any content creator that I watch online. You know, there's a lot of content creators that I've been watching for over a decade, and I've seen how their content has changed, and there is always a burden of old fans who became fans of the old content at a certain time when they were doing something, and then when they changed the content, there's just always that echo of like, man, your videos used to be better. Your videos used to be better. And I think as any kind of artist or creator or whatever, you always feel that burden alone. And then so to have some outside voice echoing that same insecurity can be really burdening. And I definitely felt that at many different points of people who had watched it back in a time when it was something very different. And I don't blame them. I mean, I understand they just want to see that old content, and in a way I do too, but I have to accept that things just are different than that. And they certainly come up, you know, I'm not going to say that I haven't made anything that's reminiscent of the old days. I think ultimately my quality of work has gotten way better. When I go back and look at videos that I, in nostalgia purposes, uphold to be like some of my best work, I go back and watch it and it's just riddled with mistakes and sloppiness and like ignorance and not knowing how to do things correctly. And so that makes me feel better of like, well, okay, my output isn't the same, but my, when I take the time to put effort into videos on this channel, which doesn't happen all that often anymore, but when it does happen, I feel really proud of it. I really see it as like a nice stepping stone, a mile marker to see. Because it's always nice to see yourself getting better, especially when you've done something so long. Because like I'm not gonna fool anyone and say that I'm like some mega talent, but I do think that I've continued to get better, even though the progression has gotten slower. Or there's like spikes of it, but there's big, vast periods of time where I really feel like I've plateaued in terms of my skill level. But if you have those mile markers of like this video versus a video I made of 3 years ago, and there's roughly the same amount of effort put into them, and you see that the newest one is so much better than the old one, that makes you feel less like you're wasting your time. Because I certainly have moments reflecting on this channel where I don't feel good about the dailies I'm making. it is very burdenous. You know, it's work, it's time away from things that matter. My time is more valuable now in my life than it has ever been by 10x. And so there have been a lot of moments where I'm like, why am I doing this? And I look at like the analytics, and the viewership has been so slow to grow, you know, and even though my subscribers go up, I can tell you that there have been times where I had more viewership and more engagement with less subscribers, because people just don't, you know, they subscribe, but then they don't watch or whatever. I don't know, things happen in their life. Like, I'm subscribed to lots of channels on YouTube that I just don't watch anymore, but I don't even have the energy or the effort. I don't even think about them enough to go back and unsubscribe from them. But whatever, that isn't that important to me. But sometimes, you know, you have these moments where you're like, okay, well, if none of this is important to me, well, then what about it is important? And usually the things that inspire me to keep going is when I meet somebody who has been watching currently, you know, who started watching recently and finds interest in it. Whenever I go back and I have these moments where I'll spend like 2 hours watching old videos, even if it's a year ago or 3 years ago, and I'm reminiscing on old times, and I'm finding it interesting myself personally to see like a daily diary, you know, to go back. And then also whenever I have an opportunity to make a really good video that I put up and I feel really proud of, or just I had a lot of fun making, you know, things like when Caden and I did that Hot Wheels track, you know, that was something that I had a tremendous amount of fun making. Was it the best it could be? Absolutely not. I mean, I could have spent so much more time on that, but it's those moments where it's like, you know, this has a lot of value. It's not a linear value. The value has highs and lows like you wouldn't believe, but in the big picture, I think it has more I mean, it hasn't made my life worse, right? I think it's only made my life better. So I should keep going. If it ever gets to a point where it's making my life literally worse for a long period of time, then I shouldn't do it. But as of right now, everything is kind of built around the dailies, so it doesn't feel like a ton of work. The only part that feels like a lot of work is when you get to 8:30 at night, like today, and it's like, oh, I have no video. And then you're like, oh, you know, that's when it's like, there's that little moment where I'm like, God, I wish I wasn't doing a video every day. But it's very fleeting. Even now talking, even though this video has no creative value in terms of technical storytelling, I feel value just even talking this kind of stream of consciousness. And as somebody who enjoys some of the most meaningless, boring content from the smallest content creators on YouTube, and that has nothing to do with what I want from YouTube. Like, I think about if I was an audience member, if I was one of those channels, I would be like loving the fact that there's a 20-minute video where that person's just talking, because I don't know, I find the nuances of people's lives that I don't know very fascinating on YouTube. I've been over it. If you ever interested, you should just search through my Less Famous Faces series, where I kind of go into sharing some of these very small content creators that I'm very fascinated in, because all their content is like seemingly not that great, but there's like this X factor about them that I find really interesting. And so even though I can't objectively see that in myself, I just have to believe that there's got to be somebody out there watching this, you know, who feels the same way. So that wasn't at all what I really intended to talk about, but I'm happy I did. Good videos coming up. I mean, well, I don't know about good, but going and doing some traveling soon, so at least you won't see me at this desk quite as much for a little bit. Yeah.